Welcome to Heart, where we break the silence, bridge the gaps, and bring real conversations about mental health to the forefront. I'm your host, Lee Yaffe, founder and director of The Long Short Road. Hi, Hadassa. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lee. How are you?
Good, thank God. Happy to have you. So, I like to start our show by asking my guests to introduce themselves in their own words. Could you introduce yourself?
Okay, so I'm Hadassa Pardes. I live in Jerusalem, moved here with my husband and our five kids from Belgium 16 years ago. And I'm a mom. I'm Daniella's mom, and I'm Beit Daniella's mom too.
I love the it's beautiful. So I would love to expand on both. So you're Daniella's mom and you're Beit Daniella's mom. So can you, I guess the question I want to start with is tell us your why for, I guess one explains the other. So tell us a little bit about your journey, your story, how Beit Daniella came to be and how you got to where you are.
Okay, so I didn't ever think I would be doing what I'm doing today because I'm actually not from the mental health world. I'm not from the educate. Well, I'm not myself a therapist or a teacher or I'm actually a mathematician and I spent most of my life teaching math and computer science in universities and working in high tech and I was the director of the NATO Science Program in information security because I lived in Brussels and the capital of headquarters of NATO is in Brussels, so I worked there. So this is kind of an unexpected place for me to be, but life brought me to where I am, and our daughter Daniela brought me to what I'm doing now. Daniela is the fourth of five children, and I mean, I'll just tell her story because then you'll understand what I'm doing now. She was unfortunately, Daniela was a wonderful, happy, smart, successful, very, very sociable kid. Um, a normal, healthy, lovely, and loving child. She was very much like a leader type, and she loved her friends, and she loved her family, and she loved her people, and she had a ton of energy, and she was always at the center of things, like a busy bee. And then at the age of 13, she developed anorexia all of a sudden. I mean, all of a sudden, she went on a diet like teenagers go on a diet, and then the diet got more strict and more strict and more strict. She was, very much a kid that wanted to excel. So she wanted to be very good at it and did it with a lot of enthusiasm, like she did everything else in life, and was very successful at it in the beginning, and then got too successful at it. Very quickly, it got too extreme. And then at some point, she was hardly eating anything. And then she ended up within a few months getting hospitalized. Then she was in hospital for a few months here in Jerusalem. And, the hospital brought her back to like a normal weight. But then she came home, and because she was the type that loved her friends and her school, and she wanted to go back to her school. So she tried to go back to school. And that's where the transition from like being in a psychiatric ward in a hospital to being in a normal school with teenagers thinking of normal teenage stuff, that transition didn't work. She didn't have a common language with her friends anymore. She was thinking all these serious things about life and death and the purpose of life and is life worth living? And her friends were thinking of normal teenage stuff. Um, and she ended up dropping out of school after a couple of weeks. And we looked for a program for her. Now, we knew that she needed therapy and she needed schooling because normal kids need schooling, and she needed friends because she was very sociable, and she needed food because she needed to survive. So we wanted a day program because for her it was very important to be at home, and her family was really, really necessary for her to be present in her everyday life. So we looked for a day program for her, and believe it or not, So this is 7 years ago. Um, there were no day programs in Israel, in the whole country. And I mean, later I found out Israel's not the only country. There really aren't many day programs. And the programs that there are mostly in hospitals. And she was just coming out of a hospital. Like, we didn't want to put her into a hospital. We didn't want her to be in a sterile environment where she was going to be cut off from everything normal in life. We wanted to bring her back to life and back to the things she loved and back to the things that um, helped her, give her desire to wake up in the morning, and all those things don't happen in hospitals. Hospitals like cut off kids from their family, from their friends, from their dog, from whatever they love. I mean, she loved her dog, but whatever the kid loves, um, hospitals a very sterile environment. So we weren't really looking for a hospital program. Anyways, we didn't find what we were looking for. We ended up having to build kind of our own program. She went to like a therapeutic kennel in the morning, and then in the afternoon she went to an eating disorders program. And they were both good programs, but they weren't one program. They weren't built as one program, because a kid that's going through, something like this, it's so complex, and there's parts of them that are really healthy and parts of them that are sick, and different parts of them are showing up and being triggered by different things. And so it's really important. This is something we understood the hard way, but it's really important to have one staff that's seeing all aspects of the kid. And that we didn't have. So her healthy side was when she was in the kennel, she was taking care of the dog, she was running the place, she was receiving, guests that were buying a dog, or she was telling them, oh, you should get this puppy, or this one's good for you. And then the veterinarian would come, and then she'd say, well, that one had his vaccine and that one had his vaccine, but this one needs it. She was like, she felt her like she was an employee, and her strong, healthy side was expressing itself. And then in the eating disorder center, everything that was sick and that was expressing itself through food and her relationship to food would come out, and the two didn't meet. And unfortunately, I mean, I guess you understood it because I've been using the past tense the whole time. So she's not with us anymore. She put an end to her life. That happened 7 years ago, 2 days before Hanukkah.
Wow.
And we actually just passed her. She would have been 22 now. She just had her birthday. And so we understood from this thing that she had fallen through a hole in the continuum of care, that she had been in a hospital and she was then in a clinic and in a school, but that there was nothing in between. And that this in between was a hole that she fell into. And we decided to build um, what was missing for us so that the next kid wouldn't fall into that hole. And that's why Beit Daniella was born. We started Beit Daniella 7 years ago, and it's for kids that come out of not only hospitalization but out of any mental health crisis, and that aren't able anymore to be in their school, and that need a couple of months transition to get them back into the education system. And that's what we do now, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm the co-CEO. I have a partner called Sarah Malka Eisen Kripnik, and we together we built Beit Daniella. Sarah Malka is my childhood friend from Toronto, and I pulled her into this crazy project of mine, and we do it together. And here we are, 7 years later. We have a center that's up and running. It's in Tzor Hadassa, which is just outside of Jerusalem, and it's a day program for kids that have either some kind of trauma or depression or OCD or eating disorders, or kids that are self-harming or that are thinking about suicide, or um, you know, we take a large, actually, like all these kind of issues, and the kids come to us after going through whatever they went through, or after dropping out of school, or after a hospitalization. They stay with us for 4 to 6 months. It's a day program from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. They come 5 days a week. And it's a one-stop shop. They get everything. They have therapy, psychiatrists, social workers, psychologists, and then they have schooling. So they have, they learn English, math, Hebrew, Tanakh, whatever they're learning. Each kid has a different program, whatever they're able to do. And they have meals. And if they have issues with food, then they have people helping them we have a dietitian, we have people that help them with the eating. And there's a wonderful invite mother of the house, I guess you say, who cooks and gives lots of love and puts the love into the food. And there's Benoche Root, and we're actually in a horse farm. It's situated in a horse farm, and the kids also work with the horses, and there's a dog kennel. They work with the dogs also, and they work on the farm. And nature is a very important part of the therapy. I mean, you'll come to visit Lee, but you'll
I'm
see
looking
that
forward to it.
when you come into the farm, there's just these rolling hills and lots of lush green, and it really is a good balm for the soul. And basically, we're full with a long waiting list. Unfortunately, since we opened, I mean, that was before Corona, before the war, and now with Corona, with the war, with everything, the need has just skyrocketed. After the war started, we actually decided to build a second branch in the south, near Netivot, so near Sderot, near, all those areas
Wow.
that suffered during the war. So now that center is actually even bigger than the original center, and we have a longer waiting list there. And yeah, we're working with the authorities, also the health authorities in the country, to get this concept recognized so that other Beit Daniellas can open in the country, and that we can also open in different geographic locations. We're the first, what they call in Hebrew, tipul yom bakihila, a day center in the community, meaning a day center that's not in a hospital setting. So we're the first in the country. And yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Wow. Wow.
uh,
I'm
yeah.
like thinking about the trajectory of everything you shared, and I have so many questions. And I just, I mean, the first thing that's coming to mind for me is I'm really curious how you had the strength after Daniela passed away to do this. Like you were in
Hmm.
your own journey, you were in your own figuring it out for your family, for your daughter, and now you've turned it into an organization that's supporting so many young women. Like,
And men, we have boys too.
so,
I'm
like, I just, that's where my mind is going is how.
not alone in this project. Like when you take a decision like this, you're pulling your whole family into the project. And it affects our lives every day, and my husband and my kids. We're all in this together, and it influences a lot of things in life. It's taking your private pain and putting it on public in a public forum. I mean, I'm talking to you about it right now, which is a very good example of it, right? And once you do that, there's no going back. And then also, when you do something like that, you bring along all of your friends, all of your family, all of your community, because everybody, when something like this happens, I mean, it was such a tragedy, and it was so unexpected, and it was so unbelievably, like, you just couldn't believe that this happened. Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to make it better. You can't make it better, but they want to do something, make something better because of it. And everybody finds their way also. Like everybody finds their way of being part of it, because everyone has different skills and different resources, and different people want to give in different ways. Um, so the truth is, it gave me, and I think us, I think as a family, I can say that, but each one, of course, has their own, way of mourning and way of internalizing, what life brings. But I do think that it brings us comfort, um, to see so many people that are in this with us and they're helping us make it happen. And, to see that we really do help people because we've really changed the trajectory of many people's lives. I do think so. Many kids have told us, many parents have told us, and it happens all the time that we're approached, my husband's approached, that somebody tells us, wow, this really made a difference in my life. And, now I can start to heal. I'm not saying that we don't do magic, right? Beit Daniella is not magic. It's not like a kid comes and then they stay with us for, 5 months and they leave and they're cured. It doesn't work like that in mental health.
Right, right,
But I do think that kids come to us, they don't know what's happened to them. They don't know what's going on. And we do help them understand what they have. We help their parents also understand what they have. We give the parents a very important role in the whole thing because they're the ones that are going to be with the kid the rest of their lives. We're just there for a tiny little moment. So we help them understand, you know, what are they dealing with? And that's already very reassuring.
right.
And then we give them tools. We give them tools and we work with each kid to see what their tools are. And then they come out with a toolbox so that they know when I'm feeling this, I can do this. When I, they just feel empowered. And we give them also within a couple months a chance to succeed because many kids have experienced failure in many ways when they come to us, socially, academically, even though most of the kids are very, very bright. Most of the kids that come to us are very, very bright kids, but they need special conditions in order to excel. And so we figure out what those conditions are, and many of them really do excel academically. They continue their studies. They do bagriyot, so the tests, the national tests, and they go on to good schools. Some of them go to Sherut Leumi, to the army, to work. They do manage to build lives. And from the beginning, we think, oh, with them, what's going to be the next step? Which school, if they're in school age, because we take kids from 13 to 18. So if they're below 18, they're still going to go back to a school. We think from day one, which school is going to be the right school? Should you go back to your old school? Should you go to a different school? And everything is geared to getting back into their lives, into their community, into a school. So those are the things we can give them.
Which is a lot. Like you can't like that's a lot. And I'm thinking as you were sharing the story about your Daniella's experience and also your family's experience of trying to navigate the system, I'm thinking in my head of at least 30 other families that I've spoken to who have had similar situations where it's like hospitalization and then they kind of fall through the cracks because what are they supposed to do and where are they supposed to go? And there's no continuum of care. There's no holistic approach to the care. All the pieces are kind of, it's like loose ends everywhere. And I'm just like, it's so empowering to hear that you're giving these young women the opportunity to really heal in an environment that is preparing them to continue to be able to thrive outside of like they're not relying only on their experience in Beit like it's not like once they're out of Beit Daniella like they're healed, but they have those tools in their toolbox to help them navigate life.
Yeah, and I think most of them really do experience that they say we can build a life that's worth living with whatever we have, because whatever they have, it's going to probably accompany them for the rest of their lives,
Right,
in some way, in some form, but they can build lives that are worth living.
right. That's beautiful. And something you said before about how Beit Daniella is not magic. I want to go back to that for a second because I think people have this expectation of like, you go to a program, you get admitted to a center, you do ABC, and these magic tools will heal you. And it doesn't work that way. But I think it's also very empowering to hear that that it doesn't work that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's kind of, for me, it's a relief to hear you say that because I feel like there's this expectation of, oh, I'm going to do ABC and then I'm going to, wave a magic wand and it'll be done. And like you said, the challenges that these women are facing, some of them it's going to accompany them throughout their lives, but they can still create lives worth living and meaningful lives even with their challenges.
Right. Look, it's a lesson that I had to integrate. It took me years to integrate that lesson because I also believed like that there was some magic wand and that I had missed the magic wand for my own daughter. And I did think, if we do this, then it'll be a thing of the past. And I've learned, by seeing so many kids over the years now that, yeah, it's more complex than that. And that we learn to accept ourselves with whatever complexities we have.
Yes, I definitely resonate with that. When I got started in suicide prevention 10 years ago, it was like, I'm going to be the one who's going to solve this crisis. There will be no more suicides once I'm done with this issue. And you learn to become comfortable with the ambiguity of not having all the answers. And but it's hard. It's very hard. So then let me ask you, what do you think I mean, I guess it's such a unique question. It's such a unique answer for each girl. But what would you say healing looks like? Like if you could say, if you could define healing, what would you say healing is?
So we work with boys and girls.
Okay. Oh, right, right. With the women and the men, it's different. Right. It's different.
Right,
So for each gender, each person, it's right.
right. So what is success, you're saying? That is a huge question.
Right.
And any self-respecting health organization or any organization actually has to know how to define success and how to measure success. It's work in progress.
Right.
We're building a measurement and evaluation system, which we actually are doing it. We have like a research project with researchers at Tel Aviv University that
Wow.
are helping us build this system, and it's all based on our data system. We have a data system where we track everything about every kid. We use Salesforce, and every member of the staff puts input about every kid. So there's so many people in our staff, right? I told you there's the education, the therapy, and then the everyday, functioning, which is, the madrichim, the imbai. Every person on the staff, and there's the psychiatrist, and then there's this dog therapist and the horse therapist. Every person in the staff sees a different angle of the kid and tracks it in our system. And the progress of each kid is very individual. So when they come in, there's like a very short period where the staff just gets to know them. And then about 3 weeks into the program, the staff works with the kid and the parents and builds a program with goals.
Hmm.
And each kid has their own goals,
Right.
depending on what their difficulties are. They set the goals together. And then throughout the couple months that they're with us, there are different points where those goals are evaluated and maybe reset. And that way the progress of every kid, which is very personal because, one kid might go from, uh, A to B, and another kid will have a different A and a different B, right? It's a very individual process, but but it's very defined and observed and tracked.
Hmm.
And the question is how to take all that data and to build really a measurement and evaluation system. And that's what we're busy doing now with professionals. I don't know if that answers your question. Obviously, our overall goal is we want to get the kid back into the school system. We want to find a program. Usually the program is a school. For some kids, it's not a school. If they're 18, maybe they'll go straight to Shirut Leumi or to the army or to get a job. But whatever it is, every kid, when they finish, is placed into a program that they've chosen with the staff, with the parents, and that's already huge.
Right.
And then as time goes on, we still continue to have contact with those kids. We have an alumni program once a week. The kids come back once a week. We also have a different program once a month for kids that have been graduated like a long time ago, so they only come once a month. It's optional, but a lot of kids come. And then we also have a Zoom once a month with parents, which is also optional, where parents can come in, give feedback, ask questions. So we keep in contact. And, the main reason for keeping contact is because we just care about the kids and we want to know how they're doing and we want to show them that we care about them and that they're important to us. But also, it's important for us to know, to track the the efficacy of our intervention.
The goal of them being able to reintegrate and take the tools and go back into society, whatever that looks like. That's not a common experience for a lot of people who are struggling with like I'm saying, at least from what I've seen, a lot of people that I've seen who are struggling kind of float through the world for a long time until they find their place. So it's really beautiful. And I'm also like in my head, I'm like, how do we get Beit Daniella in the States? Like, how do we make this happen here? Because I'm hearing all the stories of people who are falling through the cracks, and it feels a little helpless sometimes. People call and they're like, what program do I put my child in? Or what program should I look into? And I'm like, I can name you the programs that are really good. Will you get in? I don't know. Will it be a good fit for you? I don't know. Will your insurance cover it? I don't know. So there's like there's a lot of unknowns, and it feels, yeah. Sometimes I say to people, I feel a little helpless. They're like, Lee, if you feel helpless, then we're in trouble because you're supposed to have all the answers. I was like, but I don't. I don't think anyone does.
Something really important that you just said was that these are people that are having a hard time finding their place. I think those words, finding their place, are key.
Okay.
A lot of kids that are going through this kind of crisis are saying, I don't have a place. I don't have a place in this world, or I don't deserve to have a place in this world. And that's what leads also to suicidal thoughts, right? There's no place that's for me. And that's also what leads to anorexic thoughts, like I have to just shrink myself because I don't deserve space. A big problem is bringing the kid to understand that they deserve space, that they deserve everything that every person deserves, that they are worth, that they are people that they have worth, they have value, that they're seen. If you look at pictures and drawings that a lot of these kids draw during that period, they'll draw pictures of themselves or of girls or people without faces, with their hair covering their faces, without eyes. I mean, I'm thinking of pictures that my own daughter drew, but I've seen it a lot of times. You look at these pictures where they draw themselves and they have no identity, they have no face, they have no communication. Eyes is communication. They have no identity. My daughter once made a picture of herself and she gave a title. She said, "The woman who was worth nothing." That's what the name of the picture was. I know that was so sad.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's the thing, Hadassa, is like as you're saying that, I'm like, I can name 15 other girls who I know feel that way. Like that I've spoken
right,
to in the last 10 days.
right,
Just, I don't know. I hear that the sense of identity and belonging is missing. And,
right.
and I wonder though, like, how do we, I don't know, maybe this is like a very broad pie in the sky question, but I just wonder, like, how do we create that in, our I feel like our society is not I'm not, in Israel, the States, anywhere. I feel like we're not equipped to help people who are in that much emotional and psychological pain feel seen. And they
Right.
and they feel it. They feel that way. And it's very hard.
Look, I can say that it happens. There's this magic that happens, and I think I don't know, we were so lucky that we found really quality people in our staff that are there for professional reasons, but they're not only professional, they're also very human. And the kids that come in, they are definitely seen. Every kid that comes in is appreciated and loved, and they feel it. There's a sense of belonging, which it's unbelievable because transitional program, right?
Right,
People only come to us for a few months, but when they're with us, they feel like this is my place.
right.
And they're proud of it, which is also something because, there's so much stigma. People don't like saying usually I'm in a place for mental health, but the kids that come to us, like one in the first year, they said, I remember they asked us, can you make us sweatshirts and we'll put the logo of Beit Daniella on the sweatshirt? And we made the sweatshirts and they wear them. Now every year we make sweatshirts.
That's amazing.
Um,
No, but that speaks also to like the power of they feel seen and they're not afraid to identify with where they are like physically being part of Beit Daniella because it's a place where they feel seen. We oh,
because they're people. They're not seen for their illness.
right.
Like every kid has their difficulties, but first they're people. And they are seen as people that have personality, that have strengths, that have weaknesses, that, have their funny side, their angry side, their interesting side, their creative side, their whatever side. And it's really, really, really important. And I think that our staff really does see them as people. And I think that they feel immediately a sense of belonging because there's the peers. They've always felt like outsiders and wherever they were. They come to Beit Daniela and there's all these other kids that have experienced similar difficulties, and there's a very strong sense of group, even though it's very interesting. Beit Daniela is non-denominational. So we take kids, boys, girls, religious, not religious, across the spectrum, whatever, Israeli, across the spectrum of Israeli society. And yet they understand each other and they help each other. Sometimes they also influence each other in non-healthy ways, right? Because they can also encourage them, to be sick like they're sick, or to, not eat like they don't eat, or whatever it might be. But there's definitely a sense of belonging, and we see that with the graduates. We have graduates that years later feel so connected. Um, we have this one girl that put a tattoo of Beit Daniela on her leg, and she showed me her tattoo. We have this other couple, actually, it's a couple that met each other in the graduate program.
Wow.
They got married, and on their invitation, they put like the background of the invitation is a picture of Beit Daniela at the
Wow.
farm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
It's had a huge influence on these people. It's really
yeah,
changed. I just heard I know I just said this before, but I'm like, how are we getting this program everywhere? Because I just, there's such a need for people who are struggling to feel that safety and that's being seen and not only being identified as their problem, but being seen as a person. And I think that's something that's very lacking. And I don't think that's just, a lot of people say to me, like, oh, that's just a religious thing. It's because we have stigma about mental health in the religious community. I don't think that's true. I think even in a secular environment, mental health is very stigmatized. And there is something to be said about when peers see each other and feel connected to each other, what a difference that makes.
yep, yep. Look, it's all in the staff. And thank God we really have managed to find excellent people. And there's a lot of training behind the scenes. The kids see the iceberg of what's really going on in the organization, because at every level of the staff, at every level, there's training that the next level is giving them and that the people above are giving them. And let's say a therapist that treats maybe 4 kids will be a full-time therapist, and they'll have tons of hours of forums, training, meeting the parents. So yeah, a lot goes into it.
And that actually was something I wanted to ask you about was the involvement of the parents and involving the parents in what's going on at Beit Daniela, because as you said earlier, they're the ones who are going to be with their kids for the rest of their life. Like you get a snapshot of their kids for 5 or 6 months, but it is like the integration of including parents is a huge, like, I think that's an aspect that often gets overlooked. That it's not just the child who needs to be involved in their own healing, it's also their parents. Um,
Total. So first of all, it's at the intake process. We only accept kids that come with parents that are willing to work with the kid and that are willing to do the process with them.
wow.
So kids that don't have supportive parents, they need something else. They don't need this. They
Right.
need to be in a pneumonia, which is like a therapeutic place where they sleep, like a maybe they need something else. But this program is tailored for kids that come with parents. The parents are super, super involved. It's actually important for me to say this because I know that this podcast is gonna be in the United States, and so people in the United States are thinking, "Oh, can I send my daughter?" But parents have to be
Living in Israel. So if you're ready to move to Israel, so your kid can be part of, I mean,
right. The
but
parents have to be here. They first of all, they bring their kid every day, and they pick them up every evening. So that's already, they have to be on duty. And we're not in a city. We're in Sor Hadassa on a horse farm, and our southern branch is, also it's in a place called Shibolim, which is outside of Netivot. How many people live there? Like the parents have to be willing to bring the kid every morning at 8, pick them up at 4, and then they come once a week for what we call hadrachat horim, which means parental training. How do you say hadrachat horim? Parental guidance.
yeah.
Parental guidance with a social worker. And they come once a week for DBT training in a group with all the parents.
Wow, that's great.
DBT is the basic language that we use. So there's DBT training for the parents, there's DBT training for the kids, there's DBT training for the staff.
That's beautiful.
DBT,
Parents,
dialectic behavioral therapy.
when parents ask me about DBT for their kids, one of the first recommendations I usually make, I'm like, even if you're not going to go to therapy, you need to learn the tools and you need to learn the language of DBT and you have to understand how it works. Because if your child is spending however many hours a week they are learning these tools, but then they come home and you don't have common language, it's kind of not that it's a waste of time, but there's still a barrier of not being able to help your child because you don't
Right.
understand what they're talking about.
Right.
That's,
Totally.
I appreciate that because that's something I advocate for a lot. So I appreciate that that's something that you're doing. Wow. But it sounds also like the parents are like they're also in a way doing their own self. Like it's also like it comes out, I imagine also being like reflective work.
Totally.
And also, they're doing their own healing work also.
For sure. I mean, parental guidance is very much is it's very therapeutic for them and for whatever they're going through as a parent. Um, sometimes in Hebrew they call it tipul behorut, parental therapy.
Wow.
Definitely. We actually had my husband and I went to the southern branch recently, and we walked in right after the DBT session. So there were a bunch of parents that were still there. We were there for a different meeting. And then one of the couples came out to us, and this happens. I told you it happens a lot. They said, you saved our child. We had lost our child. You brought her back to us. Like they were saying very nice things. But what I wanted to say is that they said something very interesting that we had never heard before. They said, you actually saved our marriage.
Wow.
Now, I don't like the word saving because I don't believe, that we should see ourselves as saviors. Like it's too simplistic. But I'm actually quoting somebody that said this. And he said, we weren't sleeping at night. We couldn't figure it out. We were, bickering, fighting because we were so confused. And then once she got here, we got the guidance and we knew what we were dealing with. And yeah, it was very touching.
Wow.
It was very touching. And those are the things that give us the strength to do what we do because it's not always easy to do what we do. It's not an easy job. I left my previous job in order to do this.
Say from mathematics to this is like a big leap.
Yeah, you would think, huh? Yeah, I was actually teaching in Michlelet Hadassa here in Jerusalem the first year when Beit Daniella started, and then I let go of it because it was too much. Because building an organization is more demanding than what I had thought it would be.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
that's
full-time job.
incredible.
But I have Sarah Malka and we have our staff and we have wonderful professionals. So we're no longer at the place where Sarah Malka and me have to build everything and worry about everything. We have our head psychologist who's in charge of the therapeutic program is basically in charge of everything that happens on the ground. And now Sarah Malka and I can focus on building the organization and partnerships and getting the support that we need for the organization. So we're at a point now where the job descriptions are more clear and the limits of every person's responsibilities are more clear
But
and manageable.
I know that feeling though, because it's like people are like, "Oh, you're the CEO of the organization." I'm like, "I'm also the housekeeper and the chef and the postman." Like you do all the things when you're running, at least in the beginning when you're running an organization. It's like all the
It, it
everything.
was like that. It was like that in the beginning. We started off in Sur Hadassah. We had two girls, two students, and we had one social worker, and we had a few staff members. But yeah, we were sweeping the floors, definitely. Today, with all of the staff, if you include, part-time people, and if you include teachers that are actually employed by the Ministry of Education, we have 65 employees.
Wow, that's amazing.
So a lot of people.
A lot of people. That's incredible. But it's, I mean, it really, but it speaks also to the need, like that you're catering to the needs of the girls by having, and boys, people who are in Beit Daniella are, you know, benefiting from the immense, from the staffing and from all
Yeah, and there's a
the
lot of people
operating.
behind the scenes in order to make what happens, like I said, it's the what the kids see is like the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. Whatever you can think about, whatever, let's say your data system, somebody has to be building your data system so that, all of the therapists can be inputting data. Like there's
Yeah,
just a million people that are behind the scenes. And also because we're growing, we have two branches now. Um, we would like to grow each of the existing branches. We have, as of this morning, I actually checked this morning, we have 41 kids on our waiting list right now. So we want to grow each of the two branches, double their capacity. That requires building a new wing, building a new building. We have some plans for it. In the south, we actually got a piece of land from the government is giving us a piece of land, and Bituach Leumi has given us half of a budget to build a building, and we're hopefully going to be able to raise the other half. Bituach Leumi is Social Security. So
right.
Social Security gave us half of the budget of a building. So we're designing that building now.
Wow.
Um, and we're designing it for double the capacity we have now.
How
Uh,
many kids do you have now?
so now in each branch, there's 16 spots. They're always occupied, and kids come in and go out. So it ends up being about 50 kids in each branch per year,
Wow.
between 40 and 50 in each branch per year. And their parents that also get, therapy.
All
So we want to double that capacity. And we're also considering opening a third branch. We haven't decided yet where, but, the goal is that there should be a Beit Daniella or some other organization, something similar to Beit Daniella in every part of the country, so that every kid that needs this can get to it.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. Really, you should have a lot of, I mean, I tell people this all the time. Like on one hand, it's like it's so hard that there's such a big need, but also like you should have a lot of success in filling the need. Like the need is there. So it need, we can wish that these problems didn't exist, but they exist and the need is there. So, you should have a lot of success with being able to fill the need.
Yeah, look, halavai, there would be no need. Halavai,
Yeah,
we wish, but that doesn't seem to be the direction we're going in.
I
The
know.
direction we're going in is that this is really a national trauma and that we are looking at a generational trauma that's going to be going with us. And that things have to really, really change in the system. And we're doing a lot of work in that direction too. There's a lot of lobbying work to the Ministry of Health, to the Ministry of Education. There's a lot of lobbying work to bring awareness and consciousness that there have to be um, budget lines in the system that are available to build places like Beit Daniella, to support places like Beit Daniella. I mean, we've gone, Sarah Malka and I have gone till the Knesset to get the existing law, because there is an existing law that provides education to sick children, but it doesn't mention day centers. It only mentions hospitals and schools and kids that can't go to schools that are at home. There were no day centers, so obviously they don't appear in the law.
Right.
So, so we're working with a Knesset member to get changes in the law so that day centers should be recognized and subsidized. And just last week, we actually had a discussion with the Ministry of Education that we need to be recognized by Ministry of Education. They do pay our teachers, so the teachers are staff of the Ministry of Education, but it's such a new concept that they haven't really built laws, they haven't built rules for
Wow.
us.
Wow.
So everything is kind of experimental, and every time we come to something new, we have to figure it out
Wow.
because it's not defined yet.
Right.
So we're working with the authorities to get all of those things defined.
Wow. That's amazing. And it's interesting that it's like the law exists, but not for a day, like because a day, like it wasn't really something that existed in Israel until now. Like they didn't, why would they have laws for something? So you're literally changing the infrastructure of the government as you're going. That's amazing.
Right.
That's beautiful. So, Hadassah, you wanted to share something about something else that's coming up also. It's not at Beit Daniella, it's for Beit Daniella.
Yeah, so I told you about all of these expansion projects that we have and this long waiting list that we have and that we really need to grow in order to answer the need out there. So one of the ways that we grow is through our marathon campaign. Every year, there's a Jerusalem Marathon, and the Jerusalem Marathon is a wonderful platform for all nonprofits in Israel to, raise awareness, raise funds, bring people that want to be part of it and give them a wonderful day with a wonderful vibe and lots of energy. So we've actually had a marathon team running from the first year of Beit Daniel. It was actually not even the first year, it was before the first year. What happened was, so Daniela died in December 2017. In March, 3 months later, there was the Jerusalem Marathon, and Daniela's friends came to me and they said, we want to run in the marathon to support Beit Daniella. Now, Beit Daniella was not yet an amuta. We didn't have a bank account. I was like, well, how are we going to do this? They said, don't worry, we'll bring cash. Anyways, her
Teenagers,
friend,
I love it. I love it.
so they got together, and my other daughter's friends also, they organized this team and they ran in the marathon. And they actually raised money. And my niece, Beatty Deutsch, you might have heard of Beatty
Yes,
Deutsch,
of
the
course. Yes,
marathon
of
runner.
course.
So she was just starting to run marathons. She had run one marathon before that when she was pregnant. And then she said, okay, I'll run with you. So she ran that marathon with us and she won
Wow.
the marathon. And it was just, she was running thinking, I'm doing this for Daniela. I'm raising money for Daniela. I'm raising awareness for Daniela. I'm bringing these people together for Beit Daniella. And she won the marathon. And it was just a wonderful start for us because a ton of people donated to the marathon campaign. And we took all of that as our seed money and we renovated our first room on the farm, which is the kitchen, which we called Daniela's Den. And since then, we've had a marathon campaign every year. So this year, the marathon is on March 27th, and we would love anybody who is listening to this podcast, come run with us in Jerusalem. You're going to love it, and you'll be doing something good for yourself and for all the kids at Beit Daniella.
Well, beautiful. And we'll include it in the show notes also, so people, it'll link to the website so people can connect with you about that.
Okay.
Hadassa, I have a last question for you.
Okay, go for it.
Do you have a message of hope for any young person who's listening right now, who's in the thick of figuring it out and trying to find their place in the world?
Wow. What can I say? Don't give up. Just don't give up and believe in yourself. And there's hope and there are things to do and get help. Just don't close yourself up and give up. Turn to somebody, turn to people, find help. You know, it's just so painful when we hear about kids that gave up. We
Yeah.
hear it. There's so many. There's so many now, and there seems to be like a wave right now in Israel
Yeah.
also. And I don't know, it's just every time I just feel like telling them, just don't give up. Just talk to somebody. Just try. Don't give up. Believe in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for having this conversation with me, and thank you for everything you're doing to help create that future for these young people where they can find hope. It's really inspiring, and it like you should have a lot of success. And I'm going to give you the same bracha that I ask people to give me all the time, which is that we should not have these problems anymore, and that you can retire Beit Daniella because there is no need. But so long
Ah,
as the need exists, that you're there and able to fill it in the right way.
amen. Thank you for taking this time with me, Lee.
Thank
And good luck with you in all of your projects too.
you. Thank you for tuning in to Heart to Heart. If you or someone you love is struggling, please know there is hope and help is within reach. Since 2019, the Long Short Road has been walking alongside at-risk individuals, offering trauma-informed programs, a non-emergency hotline, and a community that fosters healing. No one has to go through this alone, and we are here for you. Discover how the Long Short Road is changing lives. Visit www.thelongshortroad.com or email us at info@thelongshortroad.com to learn more. You can be part of this mission. Sponsorship opportunities for Heart to Heart are available. Honor a loved one, support your community, and help us make mental wellness resources accessible to those who need them most. Until next time, remember, love and connection are the greatest healers. This is Lee Yaffe reminding you, hope is here, healing is possible, and you are never alone. Together, we're walking this long, short road to a brighter future.